I mean, something else, this is shifting a conversation a little bit, but when we were first reading about you and looking at your channel, we saw the interviews with Virat and Sachin, and we were super excited because we're both Indian, so we watch cricket. And but I guess for you, to that point about knowing your audience as a media company, I guess what made you want to interview, cricket players from India?
Well, you guys would probably have a better perspective on this than me, but I explain to people who are not familiar with cricket that Virat's kind of like the LeBron of cricket, and
Uh-huh.
Sachin is kind of like the Michael Jordan of
Yeah,
cricket.
that's
Oh,
pretty
Uh,
man.
accurate. Yeah.
and you know, there's a difference though, because LeBron and Michael don't get the same level of attention in the States as Virat and Sachin do in India. I think there was an article I read, I could be misquoting this slightly, but the celebrity that they enjoy is that of like the president, the Pope, and the Beatles combined. And so it was funny because we first went to India for Virat Kohli, and then a couple of years later we went back for Sachin. And as part of the taping with Virat, they asked us to pay for, I think it was like half a dozen security guards for the taping. I remember getting this request thinking like this is the stupidest thing ever and such a waste of money, and I cannot believe these guys are asking us to pay for this. Then you're actually in the situation with Virat, and I drove with him to this Adidas store there, or Puma store. I think it was Puma store because he had to deal with Puma. And nobody knows we're coming. It was before hours, and we get out of the car, quickly walk in. There were maybe a couple people on the street. We're in there for all of a half hour filming this with him. Then by the time we walk out, I mean, there are like thousands of people gathered. And, we immediately go to the car. But then when we're in the vehicle, like people are on like both sides of the vehicle trying to get to it. And if it wasn't for these security guards, like it's would quickly become quite frightening. Same situation with Sachin. We were in some remote Indian village where we popped in to do an abbreviated cricket match. And I remember at the end of it, we had to like literally sprint with him to the vehicle, just jump in the vehicle, and the vehicle took off because of just the massive amounts of people. So, um, you know, I was just intrigued by how celebrated these guys are and about how most people in the States had never heard of a couple people that are what two of the most famous people in a country with four times the population of the US.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely a thing to think about because there's a lot of, or the cricket players in general in India are like super highly looked upon because it's pretty much the main sport. I mean, there's people that watch soccer, you can find a couple people that watch basketball, and there's a couple other Indian sports as well, but it's primarily cricket. And but also, or Sham, do you have anything to say to that?
Yeah, and the other thing about Indian or sport cricket players is they, all the celebrities are kind of, I mean, it's the same here, but to a further extent in India because the celebrities marry actresses and then they become part of that family. So then their fame just accumulates. So
And Anushka Sharma was sitting in
really,
the room, or like she was one room over when we were taping Virat, but we did the interview in his house, and so she was there that day. And they're very much like prisoners in their own home when they're in
Mm.
India, because they just can't go anywhere. So you also realize when you're in that situation, like what lifestyle you don't want to have, because I don't care the amount of money you give me, but if I cannot leave my home, no thanks. Like count me out.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's the question, the age-old question, like, is there an amount of money you could take for having that level of fame? And I mean, to me, I'd say not really, but I mean, of
it'd
course,
be
you can
it'd be
also,
it'd be fun for a few days or maybe a
yeah.
couple weeks. But
But then
Yeah,
you want to go out to McDonald's or something, you just can't.
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Also,
I
I feel like during your interview with them, the main thing that or Indian journalism is a little bit different, as in, I'm sure you saw this in your comments as well, but people were asking or people were saying that Indian journalists would say stuff like, who's your high school crush? All that stuff. And that's why I'm pretty sure out of the clips that you posted with Virat, the one where he was talking about Anushka Sharma was actually the most popular one.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. So, I mean, what Sean was saying that kind of explains where all that obsession comes from.
Although in fairness, like if we were talking to Tom Brady and asking him about Giselle or whoever, and talking to them about their celebrity wife, that would probably perform really well digitally as
Hmm.
well. So I don't know that that's limited just to the Indian culture. Nonetheless, the attention paid on celebrity there is like massive for sure.